Today's case sent shockwaves across the UK and spurred a national conversation about violence against women. As more information about the case came out, there was an outpouring of rage and sorrow across the country. On social media, many women shared their stories about their experiences of sexual harassment and fears about walking alone at night. Female politicians from across the political spectrum have also gone public with their personal stories of sexual abuse and fear, demanding that the government do more to make the UK safer for women. This is Sarah Everard, a 33-year-old marketing executive originally from York and living in Brixton, South London. Her family described her as bright and beautiful, a wonderful daughter and sister. She was kind and thoughtful, caring and dependable. She always put others first and had the most amazing sense of humor. She was strong and principled and a shining example to us all. She had recently been promoted to the role of Senior Marketing Account Manager. She expressed her excitement to embark on the new journey and was ecstatic to share the good news with her friends. Just days after that, she went completely untraceable. On Wednesday, March 3rd, Sarah left a friend's house in Clapham, South London at about 9 p.m. to walk home. The journey should have taken around 50 minutes. On the way home, she was speaking to her partner Josh over the phone for 15 minutes. She was last heard from at around 9:28 p.m. and has been out of touch ever since. Sarah's loved ones have unanimously agreed that it was extremely uncharacteristic of her to cut contact suddenly, so they reported her missing. On March 6, the Metropolitan Police issued an appeal over Sarah's disappearance and released a CCTV image of her. On March 7th, police released footage taken from a private doorbell camera showing Sarah walking alone. She was last seen wearing a green rain jacket, navy blue trousers with a white diamond pattern, turquoise and orange trainers, and was thought to have been wearing green earphones and a white beanie hat. The investigation into her disappearance was led by Scotland Yard's Specialist Crime Command because of the complex nature of the probe. On March 8th, Scotland Yard said it remained open-minded as to all possibilities over Sarah's disappearance, confirming the search remains a missing persons investigation. The public's response was overwhelming, both in terms of information and in how social media was being used to share the appeals. Everyone clearly wanted to help find Sarah safe and well. On March 9th, sniffer dogs searched gardens and streets around the path Sarah had to have taken to go home. Officers also searched a pond in Clapham Common and drains along the A205. In another appeal for the public's help, fresh images of Sarah wearing the coat in which she disappeared were released. Later that night, the police announced it had arrested a police officer in Kent in connection with Sarah's disappearance. Assistant Commissioner Nick Fgrave said that the fact that the man is a servant police officer is both shocking and deeply disturbing. The Met said they had also arrested a woman at the same location on suspicion of assisting an offender. While they were both taken into custody, the search for Sarah continued. On March 10th, detectives began searching 2 locations in Kent. A tent was erected outside a house in Freeman's Way and a car was seen being taken away from the property. Sarah's uncle Nick talked to the media to say that the family was distraught and that things are utterly dire. He told Sky News that they were waiting for positive news from the police. Later that day, Scotland Yard confirmed the police officer arrested over Sarah's disappearance had been arrested on suspicion of murder. He was later identified as Wayne Couzens, a 48-year-old father of 2 serving in the force's Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command. He was held on suspicion of kidnap before being further arrested on suspicion of murder and a separate allegation of indecent exposure. In the evening of Wednesday, March 10th, Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick announced that human remains have been found. They were hidden in the woods in an area of woodland in Ashford, Kent. On Thursday, March 11th, the officer suspected of kidnapping and murdering Sarah was taken to the hospital for a head wound sustained while in custody. Scotland Yard said the suspect was treated, discharged, and returned to the police station where he was being held. On March 12th, police confirmed that the remains found in Kent belonged to Sarah. The body was identified by her dental records after it was found in a large builder's bag. Wayne Couzens was charged with the kidnap and murder of Sarah. The Metropolitan Police announced that he had been taken to the hospital for a second time in 48 hours for treatment of a fresh head injury sustained in custody. This is the man charged with the kidnap and murder of Sarah Everard. He was born in Kent, southeast England. In 1990, he started working as a light vehicle body repair technician at his family's garage business in Western Heights. In 2006, he married a Ukrainian woman named Elena and started learning the Ukrainian language. In 2008, he became a traffic officer with the Kent Police. In 2015, he and his wife bought a house in Freeman's Way, Kent. They lived in the house with their 2 children and their dog. In September 2018, he transferred to the Metropolitan Police Service. He became a member of the elite Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Squad. He was entitled to carry a firearm and a Metropolitan Police Service warrant card. He also provided static security for major public events attended by the senior members of the royal family. He is accused of exposing himself to female staff at a McDonald's in South London on February 28, 2021, which was captured on CCTV. At 8 p.m. the day Sarah vanished, he finished his shift at the United States Embassy in Nine Elms, a couple of miles away from where she was last seen alive. He was arrested in his home while his wife Elena was arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender before being released on bail. He was accused of kidnapping Sarah after a car linked to him was allegedly spotted on a motorist's dashcam near the spot where she was last seen. On March 10th, detectives carried out a search of his locker at the police base while police searched his home and garden and took away his car. On the same day, Sarah's remains were found and he was rearrested on suspicion of kidnap and murder. On March 13, 2021, he appeared in court charged with Sarah's kidnap and murder. He was remanded in custody to appear again at the Old Bailey on March 16, 2021. He stood in a grey tracksuit with 2 wounds on his head while the charges were read to him. He only spoke to confirm his name, date of birth, and address. He did not indicate any plea. On March 16th, the judge set a plea hearing date for July 9th and a provisional trial for October 25th. Sarah's death prompted a wave of shock, anger, and grief. Many women and girls took to social media to share their own traumatic experiences of being threatened or attacked while walking outside. The incidents included being catcalled, followed, harassed, and exposed to. On Saturday, March 13th, thousands of people flooded the streets of London, defying COVID restrictions to pay their respects and light out the streets for Sarah. Many participants, including Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge, laid flowers at the park. The informal vigil ended in violence as protesters and police clashed. Many videos showed officers tussling with participants as they pushed their way through the crowd. At one point, several male officers grabbed hold of several women and pulled them away in handcuffs amid cries of "shame on you" and let them go. 4 people were arrested. Metropolitan Police Chief Cressida Dick gave a statement saying that it was incredibly rare for women to be abducted from the streets of London. However, a report by The Guardian presented statistics that show that this was far from the truth. In fact, stranger killings account for 8% of all killings of women by men in the UK. According to a report by Femicide Census, between 2009 and 2018, 119 women were killed by men they did not know. Random attacks are less frequent than those carried out by men known to the victims. However, Sarah's case proves that if it can happen to her, if it can be perpetrated by a police officer, and if the attack is seemingly random, then it can happen to any woman, anywhere, at any time. The reality is that every woman that has ever walked the streets alone can tell you at least one story about a time where she was made to feel unsafe. A recent survey from UN Women UK reports that among women aged 18 to 24, 97% said they had been sexually harassed. 80% of women of all ages said that they had experienced sexual harassment in public spaces. The statistics about violent deaths are also shocking. A woman is murdered every other day in the UK, with the majority killed by an intimate partner or someone known to the victim. It is true that sharing traumatic experiences and stories and exposing the omnipresence of violence and fear are crucial. And yes, we do need to insist that men change their behavior and that governments legislate against sexual harassment and assault. However, the solution is not only to deploy more police on the streets or to make individual men change their behavior. It is also the complete transformation of our societies. Until then, we are all Sarahs waiting to happen. Sarah's tragic death needs to be a wake-up call for societies around the world. She was young, she was beautiful, she was kind, she was full of life, she had big dreams, and she was just walking home.